Ever since the departure of Carlos Vela, LAFC have had difficulty at getting a player to be their consistent star. After shipping Giroud back out to France after that failed move, Son has arrived in Los Angeles with high expectations. But what went wrong with Giroud, and are there any lessons that LAFC could learn from that failed move in order to make sure that Son is a success in the future? At Milan, most of Giroud's goals were scored from quick movement in the box and receiving from either a cutback or a cross or just a loose ball that he finished off. He was very effective at being a poacher for Milan in his last few seasons there. So why wasn't he able to translate that into MLS? Well, maybe he kind of did. The interesting thing is that his shooting and goal numbers in 2025 were remarkably similar to what it was during his best season of Serie A in 22-23. But the percentile compared to other strikers is much lower, suggesting that MLS strikers need to score more in order to be considered successful. If we look, we see that his goals aren't that far off from each other, with .55 in Serie A in one of his best seasons and .51 in 2025. While this doesn't excuse his horrid back half of the 2024 season, it kind of shows that he was doing okay in 2025. We can see his shots total was actually up, and his shots on target were up. If we look at his shooting habits, we can see that those are also largely the same, with one or two differences. His shots on target were much improved in 2025 compared to AC Milan, but his goals per shot didn't similarly improve, only by .02, which isn't really significant. We can also see that his average shot distance was higher in MLS than Serie A, and while it's not a huge difference, it still tells us something about how his shooting habits and where he was positioned on the field might have changed from AC Milan to LAFC. So the stats tell us that shooting and goal-wise, Giroud wasn't performing that much different at LAFC versus his time in Milan. The main difference is he wasn't scoring as much compared to other MLS strikers, while he was one of the top performers in Serie A. He was just as good at finishing off chances in MLS. It just took him a while to build up to it. And by the time he got there, he was falling in and out of favor. And as a designated player, that's just not good enough, which is one of the quirks of being a designated player in MLS. It's just a bit of a league difference that kind of changed the expectation and made him seem not as good as what they thought they were going to get. He also wasn't only asked to focus on goals at LAFC, but contribute to the overall play of the team, which is something that we haven't seen from him since maybe his time at Arsenal. His passes completed were higher in almost every category, and we can see that effect that it had on his goal and shot creation. At this stage of his career, he would have been best utilized as a poacher, which is what he has always been good at. But LAFC used him more as a player to contribute to the whole play, which didn't let him focus on the one thing that he's good at and kind of lessened his impact overall, as at his age, he can't really be asked to contribute everywhere on the field like that. In the end, I think Giroud's failure at LAFC had more to do with expectation and playing style than it had to do with him just playing poorly, because he was performing pretty well in 2025 season. It's just that the bad start to the 2024 season meant Steve Cherundolo didn't really feel the need to switch the playing style to fit in with Giroud, and he just didn't have a big enough impact as a designated player. And he never really was a big superstar that delivered big numbers at any team he's been at, so why would he suddenly be that in MLS? Hopefully LAFC learned the lesson of playing their biggest signings in a preferred playing style with their new one, Son. The key point with Son is that he has been one of the best forwards for years, and one of the best finishers too. With Giroud, you had a player who's a big name, who's been a part of big teams, but Son is a big player all on his own and carried Spurs through a few years. And we can see this finishing ability by looking at his goals versus his expected goals. Most strikers will tend to even out with their XG. If they overperform for a season or two, they'll underperform and generally regress to the mean, but that's not the case with Son. Son and really elite finishers will perform above it consistently. Since his XG has started being recorded by FBref in 2017, he has outperformed his XG, usually by a significant amount, in every other season besides 22-23, where he only underperformed it by .1. This is not normal. Son is a finisher which, when given the chance, he will score, and we can see that throughout his entire career with these numbers. But of course, we can see the drop-off in this last season where, although he still outperformed his XG, he was generating or getting a lot less chances than he's used to, which might have just been a function of him playing out wide under Ange's system instead of an inside left forward, which is what he preferred for most of his career. In Son's first game, he was subbed on midway into the second half in the center, while Denny Bouanga played on the left. Bouanga has been far and away LAFC's best player this season, so it's understandable that they wouldn't want to take the risk to move him inside and let Son play out left. While Son played primarily through the middle, he did swap a few times with Bouanga based on the situation, and they didn't appear to get in each other's way too much. But you could see a few times where they were both trying to make this same inside run, and one of them would have to back off. Even though they didn't get in each other's way too much, we'll see how the coaching staff deals with this situation with them wanting to make similar runs, and we'll see if it's a continued issue throughout the rest of the season. But regardless, we can already see that Son is a great fit for the direct style of play that LAFC like to employ, and we saw it specifically with the penalty that he won. We've seen this so many times with Son. LAFC is on a counter, Son's off screen looking to make the run. The ball is played in behind, he beats the center back with quick acceleration, and he cuts in front to make more space for himself, or in this case, win the foul. Here, he probably would have liked more space behind the center back, so he would have had more time to get a touch in and probably get a shot off instead of just getting taken down for the foul. I think this could be something interesting to watch out for, with Premier League games being more structured and less gaps between the midfield and defense. While in MLS, it's more open, there's a lot of transition, and you can see just in this picture how big of gaps you get between the center backs and the midfield. The defensive and the midfield lines are less connected, which leaves a lot of open space, and for number 10s, like Messi and Evander, this means there's a lot of space for them to operate in the pocket. But for players who want to run in behind, like Son, it means that it could give them a little bit less space on the counter. It might not turn out that way, but it's something interesting to watch out for. So we can see with Giroud, one of the main reasons for the failure was the detachment of the expectation versus the reality of the player. With a lot of people expecting a link-up player with a lot of assists and goals, where in reality, most of his 30s have just been him being a clutch goal scorer and poacher. His style also just didn't mesh very well with LAFC, who generate most of their chances with balls in behind rather than the cutbacks and crosses into the box that Giroud is so good with. With Son, we do have a prolific goal scorer and link-up player who's much more accustomed to putting teams on his back than Giroud might have been. And this will suit the DP system much better. But importantly, that's playing the inside left forward position that he likes. On the right, or in the center, we're not really sure what can happen, and it doesn't look like he'll play that inside left position, at least for this half of the season. I'm certain he'll play well anywhere, but maybe just not to the level that everyone else is expecting him to, if it's not in his favorite position. On top of that, the current coach, Steve Torrentolo, has already announced that he won't be here next season. So everything we see in the latter half of the season might not affect what LFC and Son are going to look like in next season. What coach are they going to bring in? What style of play will they do next season? And will they bring in a DP that suits Son and Bouanga? Will Bouanga leave with all the success he's been having? We don't know the answers to these questions, so it's impossible to tell how Son will look in the long run because of the coaching situation. But regardless, even if Son doesn't light up the field, he will bring increased visibility, shirt sales, and an incredible leadership to the locker room that any team would be delighted to have.